health is a journey that you take, and it's a consistent process of optimizing your health and in accumulating habits and behaviors that generate more energy and gather electrons and electricity into your body to create more voltage to give you the capacity to be able to meet your demands.
You're tuned in to the Dr. Kinney Show, and I'm your host, Dr. Erin Kinney, a naturopathic doctor and speaker dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of your body and guiding you back into balance. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Dr. Kinney Show. This week I'm super pleased to have joining me Dr. Maloof, author of The Spark Factor, which I'm in the middle of reading. It is fantastic if you haven't picked it up yet. Dr. Maloof, thank you so much for being here today. It's such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
Yeah. So can you start by sharing with my listeners a little bit of your journey if they haven't already followed you or listened to your book? Just share a little bit of that.
I decided I would become a doctor at a very young age, got to the point of becoming a physician, was in my medical school, and I just really felt burned out and tired and stressed. And I almost quit. And then I decided that I would change my lifestyle because a psychologist had told me, he's like, you're not really depressed or anxious. You don't have a real condition. You're just stressed out medical student and you're not taking good care of yourself. And I was like, okay. So I changed my lifestyle dramatically and I started getting really good grades. I started getting, I had more energy, I had better relationships, I had better well-being, and just so many things changed for me. And I realized that I really wanted to understand health. And so I decided to create a course because I had gotten a really high test score on my second board exam. In comparison to my first board exam, there was a big difference in scoring. I went from like an average to a 99th percentile. Wow. And I think it was literally all the lifestyle changes that I made that shifted my performance. So I was like, wow, if health is like the path to better happiness and performance, then like, what is health and how do we build it? And what did I do what did I do and why did it work? And, I had started yoga, I had started meditation, I had started spending more time with my family and my friends. I stopped skipping meals. I started sleeping more. I cut back on coffee. And I just, all these changes compounded to a really big shift in my life. And so I designed a course on evidence-based lifestyle medicine as a medical student, got to my residency, found myself pretty miserable in my residency, and at another turning point of like, oh my God, am I going to do this as a job? Like, yeah. Sucks. And I decided to resign from my residency, but I got my medical license and I ended up starting my own medical practice dedicated to optimizing health rather than just fixing sickness. And after 10 years of really studying health and using my practice as like a laboratory for health optimization and then working with over 50 different companies, creating different technologies and products and services that were related to personal health, I got asked to teach at Stanford and designed a course on healthspan. And then realized that, I was teaching these elite students and I was working with these elite clients and that there were so many people out there that I thought I could help. So in 2017, I think that's the first year I started my brand. 2019 was the first year I started teaching. 2021 was when I got my book deal. And 2023 is when it was published. So awesome. It's been a really amazing journey of where I'm at today. And now I'm the founder of a company called Adama Bioscience. And we're pioneering a new sex therapy. And I'm really passionate about sexuality and human love and human connection as a path to greater health and happiness, because it's probably the greatest factor in longevity and happiness that we know. Yeah. And it's not really part of modern medicine. Most doctors don't ask you about your relationships or ask you about your sex lives. And those are really impactful parts of your existence that play a huge role in the software of the body, software programming of the body, which is like your mind. So I spent almost 10 years studying the hardware of the body. And now I'm really interested in the programming.
And the software. I like that. I like that analogy. I loved reading your book and hearing the intro about when you were a med student. What I love about it is, you're talking about basics, right? Like it's like the basics of being a human, like getting enough sleep, getting enough sunlight, moving your body, being like with your family, like all these basic things that seem so basic, but it's like we have to be reminded of how important they are. And I if you guys haven't already read her book, it's really great because she takes those basics and she like lays it out for you, like here's why they're scientifically important, right? Like here's the reason why like doing this equals XYZ, which I found, and I'm sure you found this as well. I feel like when like everybody knows, yes, it's good to meditate. Yes, it's good to sleep, but we don't do it. Why don't we do it? Because I think sometimes we like don't actually know the why of why it's good for us, right?
That's the thing.
And I feel like when you find out why, and I found this with my patients, when I see that aha, when they're like, oh, that's what it's doing in my body.
That's what it's doing.
Okay. It's doing that chemical process, then I maybe will do it. And then they're much more compliant. Right.
I have this like core philosophy that, the body is an energetic organ. It's like all an energetic organ, right? Like the body is all, we think that we have this matter, right? But we're really mostly atoms and empty space and energy and electrons. And so when you look at health from the lens of energy capacity, which is something that I was trying to communicate in the book, is like health is not just about these lifestyles. It's like, what are these lifestyles doing on a cellular level? And it's literally about charging the body and creating voltage.
Yep.
And voltage is healing. And if without energy running through your house, you're going to have a pretty basic structure. It's not going to get, not a lot.
You're not going to be able to do anything.
You're not going to be able to you're not going to be able to cook. You're not going to be able to run your AC or your heating. You're not going to be able to run appliances or lights. And so the body needs energy to be animated and to maintain the integrity of the structure. But we don't think about health as a product of energy capacity.
Yeah,
we think of health as like this thing that health is like eating right, exercising, and not stressing out too much. But I was like, but why?
Yeah.
Why do these things do this? Like, why is yoga so good for me? Why is it that like when I am really tired and I get a lot of rest, I feel recharged? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
On a cellular level? Like, why is it that when I spend time with family and friends, I feel renewed? I feel like literally physically changed by my interaction with people. And like yesterday, I spent like a bunch of time. I had a pretty long work day yesterday, and then I spent a bunch of time with people. Normally, I don't have as much social interaction as I had yesterday. I woke up today with my HRV like up 20 points.
So you felt great.
And I know it was related to the human connection that I had yesterday, and the fact that I did a lot of deep breathing exercises before I went to bed. And so I'm just really trying to challenge people to like shift the way they think about the body. And instead of think about it as just this thing that you just like fill it with food and breathe air, and then you're like, and then you move it and then you're healthy. It's like, no, think about what you're doing and what's happening on a cellular level. And it's really about tuning the mitochondria to function as better batteries. Yeah. And actually running your body kind of like your body has hybrid engines in each cell, and they can either run on gas power or battery power. And so you can run on your backup power supply, or you can run on like external energy. And most people are eating carbs all day long and eating all day long to maintain their energy levels. But if you're metabolically flexible, you can get energy at any time from just tapping into your own fat stores and just being able to being able to use your body's natural capacity to create energy at any time. That's just not most people, because most people are insulin resistant. Yeah. And most people are unhealthy metabolically. And so the very core of this book is about metabolic health. But I try to lead into the work that I'm doing today in the book by previewing the stuff on sexuality, love, and attachment and connection. Because that's where my career is going.
Yeah. And I feel like that's such important work. I feel like I sometimes will ask patients, I'm like, hey, tell me about your sex drive. And they're like, that's not why I'm here. I'm like, no, I want to know that, because if your sex drive is zip, it's like your life force. I mean, when I first saw the book title of The Spark Factor, I was like, ooh, that sounds like a sexy, it actually made me think like, ooh, is there a spark? Like, it kind of made me think.
I really wanted to call the book Turn Yourself On, because it's really about like turning your lights on and turning your body on and being turned, like when your body is energized and alive, you are filled with life force, and you will notice your sex drive improve, right? Yeah.
And it's a good sign.
My editors were cool, but they just like were not into it. And I'm like, that's my next book.
My next book will be Turn Me On. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's so many great people out there that are like experts on sexuality. But what I'm trying to show people is like
what it does for your physical health.
When you optimize your health, you optimize your appearance, you optimize your sex drive, you optimize your ability to perform at your job, and you get so many other things besides just energy. You get what energy can give you, which is resilience to stress, which is a better mood, which is feeling more confident, which is looking better in the mirror. Like I woke up today, I put on like a very little bit of makeup and I felt really attractive today. And it's like, I'm like
Awesome.
loving the fact that I don't have to wear as much makeup because when I'm really healthy, I don't need as much makeup. Like,
because you've got that like radiance going on, right?
Yeah. And when I'm
the
tired,
inner glow.
I need to put on more highlighter, you know?
Yeah, because
And
you can
when I'm
see it in
tired-
your face. Don't you love when people tell you like, oh, you look really tired today? You're like, well, that's kind of code for you look like shit today.
That's the code for you're depleted.
You're
you know?
depleted. Yeah, your mitochondrial levels are depleted. Well, and the interesting thing I feel like about like talking about this sexual health is when you do engage in more sexual behavior, that's when your body, like you can't be sexually aroused when you're in fight flight, right? You have to be in the rest and digest mode. Like you've got to be in the healing mode. So it's healing for the nervous system. And then it also, I feel like what you were talking about, like that empty space, that human connection piece of it too is such a big, it like ignites you almost.
It does. And I was not always this energized. When I first started my career and I was just leaving my residency, I had caught a really bad viral infection and I was already chronically stressed. And I had chronic fatigue for at least a year or two. And I had to recover from that. And I was like, it was really funny because it was like, here I am, leave my residency, no idea what I'm going to do for a job. Fortunately, I got a job, but I was so tired, so tired and so unwell. And I was just like very fortunate and very lucky that I encountered some doctors that were able to provide a template for me of what my career could look like if I were to be optimizing health as a job. And so I was like, well, I know I want to work in tech. I know I want to work with startups. I know I want to work with patients. And I did all of those things. And it was literally from the intention of wanting to make it in Silicon Valley, but also wanting to make a career for myself out of my own design that was like in response to my own personal need of healing myself. And that's the thing about like, was I necessarily like an expert at the time? I mean, I had already designed a course on health in medical school. So I was further along than most doctors were, but I was nowhere near where I am today. And yet I do think fairly strongly that like, it was my own healing journey that really helped me realize like it's like people think that you're just gonna have this overnight shift in if you read one book and it's like a 30-day plan for this. And it's like, no, health is a journey that you take and it's a consistent process of optimizing your health and accumulating habits and behaviors that generate more energy and gather electrons and electricity into your body to create more voltage, to give you the capacity to be able to meet your demands. And that is not an overnight thing. Like that you don't just like wake up and be like, okay, I'm going to be optimally well. It's like, no, it took me 10 years to get to where I am today. And I had to actually discover a lot of problems that I had along the path, including blood sugar dysregulation, including and at least one episode of burnout during the pandemic. And I just
lucky you only had one episode of burnout. That's pretty good.
Yeah. 10 years burnout. Like, and I didn't actually completely burn out, fortunately. And I think the reason why I didn't totally burn out was I'd been exercising the entire pandemic, and I got really lucky. I had access to gyms. So I think if it wasn't for the fact that I had all that exercise, I would have fully burned out. But I was able to recover because I just knew that I was going to burn out if I didn't slow down.
Yeah.
And so I was so lucky that I didn't completely burn out because I was able to like pitch my book and get a book deal. Yeah. But it was really a really like pretty scary thing. I got pretty close. But I mean, the truth is that if you have more energy if you have more energy, you have more capacity to meet your demands and you have more awareness of your body's energy levels so that if you're getting close to burnout, you can course correct.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just completely out of touch with their body and their body signals. I'm sure you know.
Oh, I feel like that is a really good point. I think that's the one thing that when I first start working with someone patient-wise is like, you've got to understand that your body is constantly giving you symptoms are just signs. They're just warning flags, or they're just like, hey, I don't like this, or I do like this. And so if you start to look at your body's symptoms as your body just telling you what it likes and it doesn't like, then the symptoms become less scary. And then you're like, it's like you've got this supercomputer giving you information all the time, which is pretty cool, right? I feel like our bodies are amazing. Totally. I'm always astounded when sometimes people come and sit in front of me and I'm like, they're telling me that. I'm like, oh, well, your body's just telling you this. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
getting a migraine when you're exhausted and you eat XYZ, your body's just being like, nope, I can't take that anymore. So we just remove a few things. And guess what? Your migraines are probably going to go away. I mean, it's not always that simple.
Sugar and a refined carb.
Sugar, refined carbs, too much
sugar
stress, not enough sleep. Yeah. I mean, and granted, I think we're making it sound simpler than it is. Sometimes it is confusing.
I used to get migraines. Okay.
Yeah.
I had bad migraines in medical school.
Yeah.
And you know what? I had a terrible habit of skipping meals and a terrible habit of eating cereal for meals and not sleeping enough and having a massive allostatic load and not exercising enough. And every time I've talked to somebody who has migraines, usually their lifestyle is not conducive to having enough energy capacity to meet their demands.
Yeah.
And there's almost always blood sugar dysregulation.
Well, and if you think about like what typically makes someone better with a migraine is laying in a dark room, like the body being still and quiet, because the body's like, I don't have energy to do anything, dummy. I need to lay down, right? Like,
and there's an alarm signal going off. Like, this is too much allostatic load.
I need to go lay down. So your body is telling you what it needs. Which again, and it usually is your body usually is telling you exactly what it needs. But I think it's helpful to, read books like this, get some information, work with a practitioner who can kind of help you figure out like what's the right step for you.
Yeah.
To get, to unwind things but it does often come back to so many of the basics that you talked about right in the beginning of this episode. Like, just the basics.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I really believe that the simple stuff is hard because it requires consistency.
Yes.
And
we all want the magic. We all want the magic pill. But as you said, you're not going to wake up overnight and be, have your health optimized. It's going to take. But the cool thing is in today's world, and I'm sure you know more about this, but I feel like the tech that exists now is so cool. Like you can wear a CGM, you can monitor everything. You can make the journey fun. You can be like, oh my gosh, I went from here to here. It took a month. Like, I mean, it's way different than it was like 10 years ago. Like we didn't have any of that stuff. We didn't have Fitbits or Oura Rings or CGMs it's like such a fun time to be working on your health, I think, anyways.
Or treadmill desks.
Yeah.
Like my friend gave me a treadmill desk and I'm like, today is the day I set it up.
Oh.
And it's like, it goes under your desk and I'm like, fuck yeah. Sorry to cuss, but I'm like,
I don't care.
I'm like, it's a rainy day. I can't go outside and do the things I was planning on doing outdoors. So I'm going to set up my desk and do my next call on a treadmill,
That's awesome. I've been like considering that because I feel like I spend a lot of time one-on-one with patients and I got to figure out, I'm like, can I walk on the treadmill while talking to a patient in the office? Would that be weird? Maybe not. Maybe we could have kept two and we could both walk and talk.
Yeah, there you go.
Then the patient could come and get some exercise. I might think about that. Exercise while seeing your doctor.
There you go.
Yeah. So, all right. Where's the best way for people to find you? If they want to learn more, follow you, and you hang on Instagram.
I'm at drmolly.co
Awesome.
on Instagram, drmolly.co. And then I'm also www.drmolly.co.
Awesome.
And and you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn at Molly Maloof, MD. And I love connecting with people.
Yeah. And seriously, guys, go check out the book. It's a really great resource. I've been so enjoying it. It's awesome. I think it's very practical and it explains a lot of things very well. So highly recommend it. Thank you so much for writing it.
Thank you for
sharing your journey. Yeah. And thanks for being on the show. This was great. So guys, go check out her stuff. We'll post all the links in the show notes and I'll see everyone next week.
Thank you, Erin.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to connect with me on social media and leave a rating and/or a review. This helps grow the show so more people have access to this knowledge that leads to empowered healing. Love and light, and see you next week.